Hey, TGIF, everybody. Welcome into the First Call podcast alongside is that Vladimir Putin and Tucker Carlson. I mean, are we the biggest thing on the internet talking with each other today, Jeff, or is it just us? It's Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk in the First Call podcast. We don't want to get political, but we'd like to have their numbers.
Yeah, I take the numbers any day. But that's a little out of my comfort zone. So let's stick with who might win some stakes races this week. Good racing for sure. We didn't have any racing today at Santa Anita because of the rain, but tomorrow, Saturday, should be pretty good, I think. And then Sunday as well. So I like it when we have just 2 or 3 programs. It's easier in terms of the workload, but we also kind of have better cards too. And I think that's part of the attraction here in Southern California. But there's good racing around the country. So let's see how it shakes out.
Big day at Tampa Bay Downs, of course, on Saturday. Gulfstream Park, of course, Santa Anita. Northern California has its biggest day, most relevant day of the schedule with the El Camino Real Derby. For the benefit of those of you watching on YouTube and on Twitter, be sure to hit that like and repost button. Help us grow our audience. For those of you listening on our traditional podcast channels, here is the schedule of races that Jeff and I will go through here for Saturday, February the 10th. At Gulfstream Park, we'll start off with the Turf Sprinters, the Gulfstream Turf Sprint, the feature race there on Saturday. To Oaklawn for the Ozark, a new stakes race there, 3-year-old sprinting in that one. To Tampa Bay Downs, where it's the prep day for Tampa Bay Derby. They'll have the Suncoast Stakes and the Sam F. Davis among multiple stakes races on the card on Saturday. At Golden Gate Fields, it could be the final edition of the El Camino Real Derby. Of course, Golden Gate Fields set to close in at the end of the spring. We will see if that's the end of the line for the El Camino Real Derby. We'll talk about that coming up later in the program. At Santa Anita, a trio of stakes races, a couple that were moved from last week because of the rains. So we've got a 3-pack of stakes races Saturday at Santa Anita, including the Palos, Verdes, the Las Virgenes, and the San Marcos. All the divisions really covered there between the sprinters, the Oaks fillies, and the turf marathoners. If you like to play handicapping tournaments, ExpressBet is the place for you. This weekend, we've got $40 feeder tournaments. There's some bigger tournaments down the line, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for Gulfstream Park. Saturday and Sunday at Santa Anita. Again, play those tournaments are just $40 a piece. And try your hand at Beat the Host. It's week 6 of 8 in the ExpressBet Beat the Host contest, where Frank Mirabati, the voice of Santa Anita, makes his first ever appearance at Beat the Host. Be sure to take him on. Brian Natto last week had a decent week, picking 3 winners on the 10-race series. So his Beat the Host total, I believe, knocked out all but 4 players with a chance now to sweep the host. To pick the Beat the Host total in all 8 weeks, you'll get $6,000 or your share of $6,000 if multiple players do it. 3 weeks left to go. Only 4 players are left with a chance to sweep the host. We had 1 player do it last year and take the entire $6,000. So we shall see what shakes out this weekend. Frank Miramati involved and Beat the Host. So you'll want to play that at expressbet.com. Okay, Jeff, let's talk February 10th stakes races. First up at Gulfstream Park. The Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint, 5/8 of a mile on the grass. Typically, when we see turf sprints, we think chaos, right? Big fields, 10, 11, 12, 14 at some tracks in turf sprint races. This is just a field of 7. So we get away from one of the big variables of turf sprints, which is traffic and chaos. And maybe we'll just get the best horse win here.
Maybe. And Carotariat used to be the best horse. I don't know if he is now at age 8. He hasn't won a race since 2022, but he's been lightly raced, only had 5 starts since 2022. And he looks like he's training eagerly. He had a run off a layoff back in early January. He finished 2nd that day. He was favored, ran well. Buyer number was strong, so he ran a winning race. And he's come back to train and breathes very nicely here. This was a minute in the 5th. Of course, just one set of dogs out, so he's not really losing any ground. But he's also coasting here. I mean, this is an eager and sharp and happy horse. And after coming off a good effort in his comeback for Brian Lynch, I expect him to step forward. And it's pretty hard to ignore his form, his race record at Gulfstream Park on grass. 9 starts, 4 wins, 3 seconds and a third. That qualifies as a horse for course. Yeah. But first or second in his career, 18 out of 34 starts, first or second. So he's always been genuine and consistent and reliable, and his numbers are fine. I mean, even though it looks like he may have slipped, he's still pretty fast on figs. Right. And with that bullet work, I expect him to bounce back. And from that 7 hole, he should be able to draft in and get a good stalking trip. He's not one of these necessarily gun to the front
Mm-hmm.
each time, although he can win that way. But he'll get a good stalking trip and should have no excuses.
Second beat and a half length in this race last year. And if you look at the running lines left to right in that race, third about 2 lengths back, inch closer, inch closer, inch closer. That looks like the kind of trip he's going to get in this race because there are 2 absolute blue ribbon speedballs in this race. I was going through the past performances. Number 3, That's Right. 9 of the last 10 starts has made the lead at the first call. The consistent braking of that horse is phenomenal for a turf sprinter, but it's nothing compared to Eamon. He's been on top in all 12 of his last 12 starts showing in the past performances. It might even be more than that if you dig back deeper, but he's not giving away, or not Eamon, I should say, hoping him, the 5 horse in here, it has that kind of speed. 12 straight races at least breaking on top. So with the 5 and the 3 committed to the front, it should be a good draft in position for Caratori, the 3. If they do come from the clouds and they really hook up, Eamon the horse, I got ahead of the horse, if you will. I thought he was interesting in here. He's a horse who finished 3rd. Closing really well last time. I like the way he was finishing up on that race. Joe Orsino coming off a big week for his barn last week, winning the Holy Bull Stakes. And sometimes horses all get good at the same time for a trainer. I wouldn't be shocked if Eamon, who has a bullet workout on the synthetic, 45 and change since that last race, doesn't make a step forward here. If you're looking for somebody off the pace, the 6 Eamon, the one I think to keep an eye on. Caratori gets that first over trip, though, Jeff. You should be in a beautiful position. And as good as Brian Lynch has been this meet, winning like crazy, he doesn't ride Irad Ortiz that often. You know, you figure the big dog would get with the hot barn. He's ridden just 3 times, once with this horse, Caratori, during the course of the meet. That is a dangerous combination. A hot trainer with Irad riding. Caratori, a lot to like in there.
Yeah, he should get a great trip. And it's kind of a blackboard race where you figure you see where the pieces are going to fall, and then you go from there. And that's why I say Caratori, even though he hasn't won since 2022, really should not have any excuses in this race. We'll see if he still has it at his advanced age, and the way we saw that workout and the way he's been training. I still think there's some spark there.
That's part of the Tropical Turf Pick 3 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. It's race number 9 on the card. Will also be part of the Beat the Host races. On Saturday, of course, to Beat the Host is the final 5 races on the card at Gulfstream and the first 5 at Santa Anita when you try to take on Frank Miramati this weekend. Back to the schedule we go as we shift gears from Gulfstream to Oaklawn. It's the Ozark Stakes, $150,000 6-furlong sprint. Oaklawn's got a great program towards the big race, the Arkansas Derby in the spring for the 3-year-olds. These horses are a little bit late to that kind of discussion, but we do have one Triple Crown nominee in here. His name is Time for Truth, and he's trained by Ron Moquette, coming off a nice win in the career debut.
Time for Truth in front. He's on the rail now. Chun Money got a breather around the turn. He's coming back at him. And those 2 are locking horns at the top of the lane. Go Captain in the 3rd position. Losing ground is the top pair right together approaching the furlong pole. Time for Truth inside. Chun Money is outside. Time for Truth with a length lead. Chun Money trying to get by him. But Time for Truth starts to inch away. Time for Truth, the first-time starter by Omaha Beach, is going to do it for the Ron Moquette barn. Time for Truth, your winner, Mr.
So what do we make of this one, Jeff? I know you like him on top in this particular spot. Time for Truth to make it 2 for 2.
Here's what I like about that maiden race. He broke well. He dueled early with another horse, put that one away.
Right.
And then the runner-up, who came back to win and verify the strength of the race and the big figure that this race was assigned, held him at bay, who was 6 lengths clear of everybody else. This horse is Triple Crown nominated, which it's a very minor handicapping angle, but at least they liked him to put up the money, and so they're probably thinking, why not? It's whatever. I mean, he made $69,000 breaking his maiden. That's pretty good winner's purse. Yeah. But I like the fact that there is the speed on the outside of him really isn't that quick. So I think he's going to get a good pace pressing trip and then go on. I mean, earn an 89 buyer number. That's tops in the field. That doesn't always get repeated when you move up in class and face additional pace pressure. But Time for Truth showed me that he could take it. The thing about him is they only gave $47,000 for him in the 2-year-old in training sale, which is nothing for an Omaha Beach. So he may have some issues that I'm not aware of. Maybe he's not particularly correct up front. Maybe he's got something that showed up in the x-rays. I don't know. But he sure ran well. I can tell you that. They put him away. They brought him back, 7-8 months later after he was sold. And I think they got a nice colt. I don't see any reason why he can't come back and do it again.
Yeah, the horse who was second him, as you mentioned, came back and won. That was last Saturday, named Mr. Phillip. He was bet hard on the board for Robertino Diodoro and looked good in winning a maiden special last week at Oaklawn. So, yeah, good company lines there. How about American Rascal? This horse, when he won his debut at Keeneland back last April, had the internet broken half over how great he was going to be. I mean, he's by Curlin out of Lady Aurelia. The sky was the limit, and then it all came crashing down with the trip to Royal Ascot, and he just hasn't really been the same since. He won a small stakes as he should have at Zia Park, but coming off a second in the Sugar Bowl, what do we make of American Rascal? Obviously, the pedigree is as blue as it gets. Maybe worth more as a stallion than as a racehorse at this point. What can we do with American Rascal?
I don't think he's one that wants to take pressure. Even his Zia race, in watching that, I mean, he really didn't meet anybody. He didn't even. I mean, he looked okay, but he wasn't like anything that was like, wow. The 76 buyer number that he earned isn't going to win a race like this. And he comes back and gets beat as the favorite behind Legalize, who, if I'm not mistaken, disappointed out of that race. So I'm going to pass on him. And if he if he improves enough to win, then good for him. I remember liking him at Royal Ascot. I figured this horse is going to win at Royal Ascot. And he didn't get much play that day, and he just kind of waved the white flag under pressure. So to me, I mean, American Rascal is speedy, but I don't know how much heart he's got.
Yeah, we will find out. Time for truth. Jeff's top picking here. One of those horses training at Oaklawn. As we get a little bit further away from January and deeper into February, those 11 lost days of training in January will be less important. But again, we keep seeing at Oaklawn a lot of these horses that are shipping in from out of town having success. So might we look at some horses from off the grounds who might come in with a little bit of an advantage? American Rascal does come from Fairgrounds, so that could be a help. Vitamin is a horse who also comes in from Fairgrounds for Eddie Keneally, who I think is interesting with a big 47 and change work since a nice comeback victory going turf to dirt. I think that horse will be fit. A lot of times, even off the turf sprint, horses get fit coming off the turf races back to the dirt, and some good work since. So Vitamin might be one to watch in there. And of course, Valentine Candy, where's his form going to be? Because he was the king of the Oaklawn sprints in this age division in the fall and into the winter, winning the Advent and the Renaissance Stakes in December. But again, he was locally based and missed a lot of that training time where Steve Asmussen was, really point blank about it with horses in his barn that really didn't get to do a lot of work during the course of that shutdown. So where is Valentine Candy in his form cycle? Might he need a race off of that kind of layoff? Interesting times at Oaklawn as these horses get back into regular, serious regimen of training, and we should see their form improve, the locally based horses, the further we get away from that. Let's go next to Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday, where they've got a handful of stakes races. They ran their turf stakes races last weekend, so everything on the main track amongst the stakes races on Saturday. Jeff and I are going to handicap two of those, the Suncoast and the Sam F. Davis. These are Oaks and Derby type preps, if you will. The Suncoast Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies, $150,000 prep towards the Florida Oaks, 1 mile and 40 yards on the main track. Jeff, how do you see this one shaking out in the Suncoast?
Actually surprised a little bit to see Life Talk in the race. Of course, this is a filly who was third in the Frisette, so she's grade 1 place, respectable fourth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Then she won the Demoiselle easily.
Right.
She shows up here in a listed stakes. It might be just one of these, hey, she's ready to run type of things. And I know, it's good money down there or up there, wherever they're coming from. And
over there from Florida.
Over there, yeah. So why not just tick her over with this easy race? You can see her here breezing on the outside. And this work January 19th, which was, I guess, not being persevered with in any way. I mean, she looks eager, doesn't she? I mean, she wants to do it, not being asked to do much, just kind of keeping fit. And I don't think she's 100% cranked up for her first start since the first couple of days of December. But it's there. It's on the calendar. She needs to run. She has no conditions. You either run her in a race like this or you don't run her. So I'd imagine her class will carry her through. A Daughter of Gun Runner, Life Talk. And she's galloping out here good. I mean, it says a 150 and 2, but she's clearly getting much more work than that. You can see her gallop all the way out to the 3/4 pole, so it's almost a 3/4 breeze, and did it in company and did it nicely. So I don't see any reason why Life Talk shouldn't pick up where she left off.
Yeah, we talked about this a few times in different podcasts, but the strength of the 2-year-old filly division last year was clearly in New York with Just
Oh
FYI
yeah,
and the others.
yeah.
And Life Talk just went through the entire gauntlet from Saratoga to Aqueduct and then out to Santa Anita, and then back to Aqueduct for the Demoiselle. I mean, she kind of danced all the dances, ran against Just FYI twice, got beat 3 out of 4 lengths in the 2 starts against the champ. So the Naira circuit was so good last year with the 2-year-olds. Irad Ortiz didn't make the trip over. He's ridden this filly. He stays and rides at Gulfstream on Saturday. I find that interesting because there's another situation in the Tampa Bay Derby. Jose Ortiz takes the mounts here, but no Irad heading out of town on Saturday to Tampa when he obviously was ridden this filly in all 5 of her career starts. Some big name players in here, just a field of 6. 5 of these horses come off victories last time out for the Suncoast contenders, and most of them in blowout margins. So how do you evaluate those? One that I really liked is Power Squeeze, won the cash run by 5 last time, but it's the race 2 starts back going 2 turns that kind of is more like this race at Delaware Park that was impressive. It was just a maiden race, but when they went 49 and 115, you don't expect the horse to come from far off the pace and draw off and win easy like this one did by 4.5. That was a tip that Jorge Delgado had one who's running really well. Now, second off the layoff from that October to January run and the cash run stakes, won that easy at Gulfstream last time, 1-turn mile. Second off the layoff, 1-turn to 2-turn on the stretch out. I really like the form cycle that we're talking about with Power Squeeze and a good draw in the 2-hole. Nobody's going to get a bad trip in here with a field of 6 going to mile 40, but you see, certainly get to save all the ground. They're going to make one run with Power Squeeze and see if that one can't pick up some pieces. But an interesting group. You got horses that won by 6 last time, 5, 5.5, 3.5, 2. I mean, everybody but Gorgeous Girl, who only got beat 3/4 of a length when running second in the Gasparilla. Every other one of these 6 runners won last time out, and they all won convincingly with no need for the photo finish camera. That's a look at the Suncoast Stakes, prep for the Florida Oaks, and maybe down the line towards the Kentucky Oaks. Kentucky Derby preps are the ones that get all the attention, though, and that's what we've got next up at Tampa on the 10th race on the card, the Sam F. Davis Stakes, Grade 3 race here, named for the former founder and president of the Tampa Bay Downs. It was Florida Downs back in the day. Sam F. Davis was running the show there. Sam F. Davis Stakes, the prep for the Tampa Bay Derby, 1.16 miles on the main track. This is one where the prep is the same distance as the destination race, Tampa Bay Derby, also at 1.16 miles. This race traditionally doesn't come up nearly as strong as the Tampa Bay Derby will in about a month's time. Change of command, one of the horses in here is going to garner a lot of attention off a trouble trip victory and a strong performance last time out. He will add blinkers for trainer Shug McGahee. He's the son of Into Mischief, $1 million purchase. It took him a while to kind of get through the hump. And once he broke out in that Gulfstream maiden race on December 17th, he's really on the ascending rise. But how good is change of command? We're going to find out a bit on Saturday against 11 other contenders, Jeff. And this is kind of an eclectic mix, right? We've got some turfers in this. We've got some locals. We've got sprinters stretching out. Where does it all where does the rubber meet the road and where do they mesh here? I mean, what's going to rule the day in a race that's really got a lot of different ways to look at it?
And I went through this race top and bottom about 5 times trying to latch on to something that I really liked. I started with Agate Road only because he's a quality road colt out of an Airby gemologist. He's been racing on grass. He only had one prior main track race. And that was a race at Saratoga in which he was beaten a nose and an off the turfer. All of his other races are grass. I would have thought that based on his pedigree that they would, keep him on dirt or give him another chance on dirt. And they are doing it here. Went back and watched some of his dirt workouts at Palm Beach Downs. He didn't do anything for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to like him. But I don't think the switching surface is going to make any difference. He's kind of a one-pace grinding type, which is okay on the dirt. But like I say, he doesn't really excite me. He could win, but I didn't want to pick him. I looked at change of command. I thought he made hard work of it when he was at 6-5 or even money in the allowance race. He got there, really had to work hard to do it. Numbers-wise, it's okay. It was a career top 83 buyer, which is okay. I don't think Shug was all that thrilled with it because he puts blinkers on, maybe thinking that he wasn't really bearing down. Maybe he thought there was something more to give. So that's a possibility. I actually ended up with I won't say a crazy horse, but a local horse. And I usually like to take the shippers here for some reason. But
he is a crazy horse.
Crazy Mason. He's kind of crazy. He's not, he's one of these horses you don't know. He's had some clunkers, but
Right.
I do know he likes Tampa Bay. I thought his runner-up effort in the inaugural behind Patriot Spirit was very good. Closed very well off that race and galloped out strongly. Stretched out in his next race over 1:40, won that race in good fashion, I thought. He's clearly a horse that wants to sit somewhere in the middle and make a run. He's a good athlete, good mover, nice stride on him, good acceleration. And I kind of think that maybe he's got a chance against this group, even though he's clearly facing, better horses. And numbers-wise, he's not where he needs to be. But I have a hunch this race might have some pretty good early splits, and it could set up for a closer. And Crazy Mason is a closer. So on the basis of that, I mean, I was almost trying to consider a horse like Copper Tax stretching out. Well, not stretching out, but pace horse on the lead. Got speed. Ever Do It's got speed. Change of Command likes to lay fairly close to the pace. There are horses in here that want to bust out there and go. And of course, Patriot Spirit, the sprinter stretching out, he's not waiting around for anybody from where he's gone. So I'm kind of hoping that there's a kind of a pace meltdown here. And if there is, a horse like Crazy Mason could come plunking along and nab them. I like the fact that I know he likes that track. That's half the battle. Right. So at a price, I went with Crazy Mason. But if I had to pick a horse out of a hat to pick here blindly, I could probably make some kind of case for him because it's that kind of race.
Crazy Mason, once he changed leads that last time out, really had a kick to him. And a lot of people say, well, it's hard to it's hard for me to see when a horse changes leads. You'll notice it in this replay. Watch him coming down the middle of the track. And once he gets in gear, then he really finishes up nicely.
Camino, Secret Lover now back third, going to switch toward the outside. Crazy Mason is starting to find stride on the far outside. A final furlong to go. Fulmineo down the outside. Crazy Mason. Tuscan Ruler now back to third. Fulmineo has to make another 16th. Here comes Crazy Mason charging on the outside. Fulmineo, Crazy Mason with progress on the outside. Crazy Mason, Fulmineo, Crazy Mason got it. Fulmineo was second.
So Crazy Mason, Jeff's top pick in the Sam F. Davis Stakes. And, for me, I wanted Default to change of command. I have a lot of appreciation for the horse. I thought he would win easier last time. I really liked his 7 furlong race. Maybe the 2 turns first time wasn't quite, his best, and maybe he'll be better second time around 2 turns. Jose Ortiz has been riding this horse, and he rides a lot for Shug. He ends up on Agate Road for Pletcher, who had been ridden by Irad in all this start. So Irad's not coming over to ride either of the Pletchers. He's staying to ride at Gulfstream. Just I can't figure the jocks quite out on this. And, of course, Shug last week was the one, or 2 weeks ago on Pegasus Days, the one who put Gaff Leone up on interpretation or integration, his big turf horse, and caused all the hubbub. So Gaff Leone ends up on Change of Command. Jose Ortiz is now on the Pletcher horse, Agate Road. Yeah. I can't figure out where the saddles stop in this one.
Yeah, well, it might be a situation, I'm just guessing here, where Shug figures he's not going to be able to get Jose Ortiz. And so I says, look, I'm out of conditions now, so I'm going to have to run him in stakes. There might be a conflict. Tyler's open. So we'll see, maybe we'll try him and maybe he'll stick with him, because I don't know if Shug or Jose Ortiz think that Change of Command is the kind of horse that they're going to stay with. When right. As you say, when the rubber meets the road and there are other options, why don't you give Tyler a chance and maybe maybe he'll stick with them. So you don't know what the background is sometimes. I'm going to assume that that'll take care of itself, but really this is a messy race, and it's messy to begin with Tampa Bay, because you never know what's going to happen there. But now, if this race were on a track in which every horse had a prior run at Tampa Bay, it still would be hard. But as you pointed out, there are horses coming from everywhere. So I don't know what to make of it, but I'm just taking a shot and hoping for a fast pace and a deep close.
For more help on this race, be sure to check out the blog section, expressbet.com, and at news.first.com, where John White's got a preview of his Triple Crown updated Kentucky Derby top 10 list, to look back at some of last week's races, and then he handicaps these 2 big stakes for the 3-year-olds, the Sam F. Davis, and where we're headed next, which is the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate Fields. Field of 8 for the El Camino Real. This is a Preakness automatic bid race. If you win this race, you get fees paid and automatic entrance into the Preakness Stakes. A couple years ago, Ron Bauer won this race, went on to win the Preakness. We saw last year that the winner of this race went on to the Preakness Stakes. So 2 of the last 3 years, they've accepted that invite and ended up in the middle jewel of the Triple Crown. Could we see it again? And could we see a repeat of history? Because Michael McCarthy's back. He trained Ron Bauer to win this race, Jeff, and he's got Endlessly in this spot. What do you make of the potential solid favorite in here?
I'm not really sure why this didn't draw a better group of horses. I know that, Baffert doesn't send many up there. It is all weather and all that. But if they're offering you an entrance to the Preakness, I might grab this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I had one that I thought was going to eventually be this good, as it is, it looks like a grass race to me, or almost like.
Yeah, it does.
Endlessly won his first 3 starts. I like the way he did it. He was 5-1 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Just wasn't quite that good, but the number was solid. So it wasn't like he regressed as much as he just got outfooted. But now he's back against horses he really should beat. And if he does translate his grass form to the Tapeta, there really isn't any reason, especially going a mile and 1/8, which I think he's going to like, that he shouldn't get back on board here. His win in the Zuma Beach, I thought, was visually very pleasing to me. And I didn't really think he was quite good enough to win on Breeders' Cup Day, but he didn't run bad. So I think he can bounce back with this group. You got some locals here that know the track and have run well on the track, but are basically slow on figs. So I can't use them. And then a couple of other horses from Santa Anita, Tapalo for John Sadler, who may try to make the running here, and a guy named Joe, who's coming off a maiden win from grass, but looks like a horse that will really like a mile and 1/8. You could throw them in there somewhere, but I think Endlessly will find a way to win.
Let's take a look at that Zuma Beach victory for Endlessly, ridden that day by Juan Hernandez. He'll pick up Umberto Rispoli this weekend.
Set down. Grand Mo the first with an eye-catching bid. Endlessly is coming through along the inside. They're a furlong from the finish. Nganu, here's Endlessly lengthening stride. Grand Mo the first, Ace of Clubs and Formidable Man. And now Endlessly runs by Nganu, and it's going to be Endlessly. Another stellar performance from him. Endlessly has won the Zuma Beach.
A lot of talk about the Californians coming north. The horse certainly defending the home course there would be Wild Jewels, 3 for 3 over the track, including 2 stakes wins, the Golden Nugget and the Gold Rush. He's by Tamarando, a horse who won the El Camino Real Derby. So like father, like son, perhaps Wild Jewels with Frank Alvarado aboard, the tops amongst the locals in Saturday's feature at Golden Gate Fields, that being the El Camino Real Derby. We've got a great promo if you're betting Golden Gate on Saturday. Play it with First Bet and Express Bet, because if you bet $100 on the card, you get 20 back. So bet 100, get 20 throughout the card. Make sure you register for those promotions and play them through Express Bet and First Bet. That's a great promo coming up on Saturday. That does not include the Golden Hour wager. So your $100 wagers are on the Golden Gate proper wagers. So bet $100 on the card there, get the $20 back. There still will be Golden Hour daily doubles and Golden Hour pick fours, but again, they are not involved in the promo. So we go from Golden Gate Fields and the 3-year-old talk to our next stakes to handicap on the Saturday program around the country. And it's at Santa Anita, where 3 graded stakes races are hopefully under dry skies after the rain there in Southern California this weekend. It's supposed to be dry with temps in the 60s. Should be a beautiful day for racing on Saturday at Santa Anita. We're going to start off in race number 2 with the Palos Verdes Stakes, Jeff. We've got a field of 5 in here. Bob Baffert's got Hopkins. There's Big City Lights. This seems to be a race that's one of those 2.
Yeah, Hopkins won this race last year, but he was in form then. Now he comes off a long layoff where he ran 4th, beating the length in the Golden Shaheen. And he ran here last month. And you talk about being rusty, which I had a hunch he would be. He looks like a horse that wants to be raced into shape. He's lightly raced. He's now 6 years old. And I really think that he needed his comeback allowance race back on January 19th, a race in which he was 4-5, but got beat that day by C Through It, who's in here as well. So I expect Hopkins to step forward big time. But having said that, Big City Lights simply is faster on numbers. And I think Big City Lights, who's had some issues in his own right, he's 5 years of age with only 8 starts, but he came back and ran very well when he beat Newgate. Nothing wrong with that race at all. 98 Buyer number is probably going to win this race. In fact, last year when Hopkins was at his best and won this race, he earned a 97. So there's not that much left, not much difference. But I just think Big City Lights, you take away the Chosen Vron and he's undefeated. So a lot of horses would lose every race if they ran against the Chosen Vron. That's the only horse that ever beat this horse. So, and he's not in here. So I like Big City Lights to beat Hopkins in a race in which I have a hunch that these 2 horses are going to hook up again down the road somewhere.
Big City Lights, like you mentioned, has one of the most unique past performance sets you'll see. 8 starts, 4 wins, 4 seconds, all 4 seconds to the Chosen Vron. They're like two people who dated too long. Like, I just got to get away from you. And when I get away from you, everything will be all right. And even going against Hopkins, Big City Lights will be happy that he doesn't look over and see the Chosen Vron. Let's look at him last time. Big City Lights getting away from the Chosen Vron and getting to the winner's circle in Allowance Company.
With it. More tequila's been softened up. Newgate swings into action, and Sir Atticus is finding his best stride with a furlong to go. Big City Lights. Newgate on the outside, and Escape Route in between them. It's Big City Lights with a 2-length lead. Newgate chasing fast now. Big City Lights, Newgate. Big City Lights holds on. A half length to Newgate.
That was just one of the wins at the meet for Richard Mandelo's barn that's clicking at 38% for the season, having a flashback kind of season at Santa Anita here during the classic meet. And Mandela, Jeff, is set up to potentially sweep all 3 of these stakes races on Saturday. If he gets Big City Lights home, he's got a head-to-head matchup in the Las Virgenes next, and it's race number 5 where we're going to go, where Baffert's got Kinza in there coming off a dominating debut win, and then you got Copian, who just looked fantastic last time out. This is an interesting showdown. They're drawn right next to each other in a field of 5. The 3 Kinza, the 4 Copian. Let them at it. I can't wait to see these two.
Man, I tell you, this is a grade 3. I actually won this race about 24 years ago with Golden Ballet when it was a grade 1. And she eventually became the dam of a Breeders' Cup Classic winner in Drosselmeyer. But this race is only a grade 3, at least on paper. But this is why the grading system is kind of stupid. If this isn't a grade 1, I don't know what is. And I'm not saying it should be. I'm just saying, is it looking back at it in a few weeks or months, you're going to say, how was that only a grade 3? Because I think Copian, number 4, number 3 Kinza are both grade 1 level performers, and they hook up. Maybe the connections. I mean, they obviously knew that the other one was going to be in there. I would hate to see, Kinza coming off a maiden win hook up against a horse as tough as Copian is. And on the other hand, Copian's won both of her races, the maiden and the Santa Ynez. Has never had to face anything as good as Kinza. Never gotten, never even had to take a deep breath in either one of her races. So this is a great race for 2. I just hope that they don't kind of cannibalize each other in this race, because it could knock them both flat. I mean, they're both quality fillies, and they're going to have to beat the other. And that's not going to be easy. Kinza won her debut by more than 7, or the 96 Meyer number. That's a grade 1 type number. Based on pedigree, I don't think there's any reason she wouldn't run a mile. I always like to see 2 sprints before stretching out, but that wasn't in the cards here. Copian, on the other hand, has had that 2 sprints in a stretch out pattern. She had the luxury of winning the Santa Ynez, and in both races, she was switched off completely. If you look at her last race, 23 and 3 to the quarter was crawling, and then she quickened and accelerated, and she acts like a filly who absolutely will run long, whereas Kinza, at a mile, I mean, if she busts out there and goes, I mean, I just let her roll. I mean, why take her best weapon away? It's going to be an intriguing jockey's race as well to see who's going to go after who, and how soon will Pratt go after Kinza if, in fact, Copian's behind her, which I'm sure she will be. Great race. I ended up with Copian. I wouldn't be surprised if Kinza wires the field, absolutely. But Copian's got just a little bit more foundation, and by Omaha Beach and that of a mare by Victory Gallop, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind she'll be better longer than shorter. So I'll go with Copian in a race that maybe not be a bettable race, but it's certainly a good race to watch.
Here she is from January 7th.
It's been all Copian in the Santa Ynez. 3-length lead turning for home. Don't Bring Crazy is second, followed by Tambo. They're coming to the 8th pole, and it's a hand ride and an absolute show for Copian, a filly of much promise. 5-length lead with a 16th to go. Never asked for anything. The future is bright for Copian. A perfect 2 for 2. Wins by 6.
And we've spent all of our time on this race talking about the match race. You don't even mention that the 1-2 finishers in the Starlet, one of the top 2-year-old races in the country annually, are in this race. And Nothing Like You and Great 48. And they look totally overmatched by those two. And they're the 1-2 finishers out of the Starlet. So just a field of 5, but a very good field of 5 in the Las Virgenes Stakes. So can't wait to see that one. Like you said, may not be the best betting race, but look, 5th race on the card. It's going to be the final leg of the early pick 5. So this is a situation where a lot of people are going to go too deep in an early pick 5 because they want to just get to that race and have both of the ducks covered in that particular spot. But if you can single on that spot and have a strong opinion of one over the other, then you can play the same ticket for twice the combinations and and double up. Instead of hitting the pick 5 for $300, you hit it for $600 that way. So if you can separate those two, and I think the mile distance, and like you said, the 2 sprints to a route for Copian versus 1 for Kinza. And I did read somewhere in the racing press today, Baffert talking about Kinza, where he said, like you did, we're not sure how far she's going to go. We know she's brilliant, but we don't know that she's a distance horse. So we're going to find out, and Copian may be the one to lean on. If that's the case, then maybe Richard Mandela is heading into the final stakes on Saturday with a chance to sweep, as we mentioned, because he's also got a big player in the San Marcos Stakes. The San Marcos will be race number 8, field of 6 in there, and it includes the Richard Mandela trained Planetario. Mandela's won this race 4 times over the years, the San Marcos. His winners, you might have heard of these horses. United, he was pretty good, but then Johar Sandpit and the Tin Man. That's not a bad murderer's row of California-based turf horses, Jeff. Sandpit could run on anything, but Mandela's winners of this race over the years, the San Marcos, have been a who's who, and he's got Planetario in here, who should be one of the tough players as well.
Yeah, he can win. He's beaten these. Some of these have beaten him. He likes to sit back and blast home, and with Valadier in the field, you'd think there'd be plenty of pace in there. I don't know if it's best for to slow him up to a walk, and because he can be on the controlling speed if he wants to go maybe as slow as he wants to go. He going a mile and a half at Del Mar, he tried that and that didn't really work. But he has won on this course. In fact, he won the John Henry during the fall meeting, and he beat Planetario that day. Planetario came back going a mile and a half and won the Hollywood Turf Cup after that race and beat Francesco Clementi, who is a good horse. And Planetario also won the San Juan. The question is, at a mile and a quarter, is Planetario at his best, or does he need a marathon, a mile and 3/8 or farther? I don't know, but I've watched him train in the morning on the dirt. He's not a dirt horse, but he looks terrific. 6 years of age, but certainly not over-raced, with just 15 career starts, 7 wins. Obviously, he's a young 6 bred on Southern Hemisphere time. And Hector Berrios really gets a lot of run out of him. So I ended up with Planetario. Regardless, it's impossible to figure out how fast or slow they're going to go. The only thing that I do know is that they're going to probably be bunched at the top of the stretch, and then Planetario hopefully will have his shot from the quarter bull home.
Let's see him at his best, winning the John Henry.
Last is Francesco Clemente. He looks full of run. Just needs a place to make his move. He got to swing to the outside now for the stretch drive. Valadier in front with a furlong to run. Luca, Francesco Clemente on the outside. Planetario is right there too. Astronaut and Speaking Scout. They're coming down to the line. It's going to be a photo finish, and it's going to be Planetario in a photo with Francesco Clemente and Luca.
That was not the John Henry, of course. That was the Hollywood Turf Cup. The John Henry was won by Valadier, and that's the race that I'm looking at as the mold. If you're going to win this race on the front end with Valadier, you got to go back to that. 47 and change, 112. You got to run them. You can't just milk and try. If they go 114 like they did in the Hollywood Turf Cup, Valadier is going to get reeled in by all these horses, just like he did in that race. So go out there, 47 and change, 112, and try to win this sucker on the front end. I thought Valadier, I wrote this race up for the Express Bet race of the week. I like that you get rid of the variables with him. There's not a lot of other speed in this race, maybe a little bit from Eastern Ocean, but Valadier should be able to control this under Victor, who's won the race 3 times in the past. With no variables in consideration, it's just Victor against the clock in my mind. And if he does the right thing and tries to run him off his feet, I think he's got a chance to win it as maybe the 3rd, 4th wagering choice in the race. And that would be, a very fair price.
You have a horse like that if you slow it up too much and reduce it to a quarter of a mile sprint, and the other horses are behind you with all the momentum, they're going to probably gobble you up. But if you let them run, then the closers have to work a little harder to get to where they need to be, and sometimes they don't finish as well.
Right.
And it's a concept that some jockeys don't get. Unfortunately, I know Victor does.
Why don't they listen to us?
Right. And Victor, I mean, he knows that at a mile and a quarter on this course, if you go 47-2, that's probably, it's not too slow.
Right.
It's not too fast. It's just about right. So if you have a clock in your head, when you go past that first half mile, Victor, think about 47-2 thereabouts. No slower, no faster. Just try to hit that mark. And then if you do that, you got a chance to duplicate the win in the John Henry.
Sign up for the Express Bet Race of the Week in the newsletter. You can get the email newsletter sent to your inbox each and every week. Go to expressbet.com or news.first.com and get on the email list for our race of the week. Now, on Saturday, that San Marcos Stakes will be part of the Turf Pick 3, so be sure to check that out at Santa Anita as well. And Saturday at Santa Anita, we're going to have a big day of racing with those 3 graded stakes races. So check out all the action. Get Jeff's full card blog at expressbet.com and at news.first.com, where he'll tell you everything you need to know for Santa Anita each and every racing day. So our big promotions this weekend: the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday and Sunday. You get 10 times Express Bet and First Bet wager rewards points when you bet that wager with us. Here are the races for the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday. We've got those announced. Races 9 and 11 from Gulfstream Park. Santa Anita will be races 3, 6, and 7. So that is your Coast to Coast Pick 5 set up for Saturday. We want to remind you, Sunday is that big game they're going to be playing. I think the Chiefs are playing someone on Sunday in the big game, and so we're going to see whether you like Kansas City or you like San Francisco. You'll want to get your racing action in earlier. There are some updated post times for what you're used to seeing on Sundays as tracks try to complete their racing schedule before the Super Bowl on Sunday. So here is the big game Sunday racing schedule. Be sure to check out the beginning times for each of your favorite tracks. Aqueduct getting started before noon, in fact, on Sunday. Jeff's going to be a fun weekend. I guess I'll have to get a Super Bowl pick from you here. Are we going San Fran and the NFC, or are we going with the AFC and the Chiefs, who seem to be in it every year?
Yeah, I want to go with, I won a couple of years ago with my team. There's my flag up there.
Yeah, you got the Rams champions right there. Yes.
So, and we were better last year than I thought we would be. So, when it gets to these, honestly, Jeremy, I know that you probably feel kind of like the same with Oklahoma, but when your team is not playing, you either don't care or you root against the team you don't like the most, right?
Right. That's pretty much it.
That's the way to do it. So my team's not in. I don't dislike the Chiefs. I mean, and I don't dislike the 49ers. So I'm going to watch the game and try not to fall asleep on the couch in the third quarter. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Kansas City, because you're right. They always win.
Yeah, Chiefs are tough. Chiefs are tough. I'd say I'm going to lean that direction. Just the experience of being there in the past, I'll lean to Kansas City, but I am the worst sports handicapper there is out there.
No, Sunday, I am the worst. I'm the worst. I don't care how bad you are. You're not as bad as me.
On Sunday before the Super Bowl, though, I want you to check out race number 6 at Santa Anita. It's a 3-year-old allowance race where May Moon comes back. He was so fabulous in winning his debut about 3 weeks ago at Santa Anita. He's going to stretch out from the sprint to the route, go a mile in allowance company. Race number 6 at Santa Anita. And you say, Super Bowl Sunday, the horse will be buried. Nobody will know about him. The greatest Super Bowl Sunday winner that I can remember in my lifetime, Curlin in 2007. He won. The Super Bowl was in Miami that year. He won on Super Bowl Sunday for Helen Pitts. He would soon be co-purchased and moved to Steve Asmussen, go on to win a couple big races at Oaklawn on the trail, 3rd in the Derby. And then, of course, Curlin winning the Preakness and going on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic and one of the all-time greats. So it's not too late. Curlin's debut came Super Bowl Sunday back in 2007. I think it was a week sooner on the calendar than this year's Super Bowl. But we could see another good one, May Moon, in action on Sunday, Jeff. I know you'll have an eye on him.
Do you know that in 1960, what was it years?
Well, the answer is already no. When you say, did you know in 1960?
No. I'm just remembering when I was in high school, the Super Bowl was played at the Coliseum. I could have gone for like $10.
Right.
It wasn't called the Super Bowl. But I think it was in 67. But I went to the library to study on that Sunday which shocked the heck out of me for high school.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, no, because I never go into the library. My library was where my room with my daily racing forms. But I had such little interest in it at the time. Not that I wasn't a football fan. I was. But I just, my team wasn't playing, so I didn't care. I didn't like the Packers. I didn't like the Chiefs or whatever. But that's the first and main Super Bowl that I remember, the one that I didn't bother to watch.
I can tell you this: you're never going to hear a story from me that starts with "I was at the library," but
Yeah, right.
I don't have an "I was at the library" story.
Right. Well, that's the only one. The only one.
We got one between us on the over/under on library.
Now I don't know. What was I thinking?
Should be a fun Sunday, of course, with the game and all the racing moving up earlier in the day. Great weekend of racing. Salute to the folks who work at Golden Gate Fields, right? There are a lot of people who poured their heart and soul into that plant over the years, and it's the last El Camino Real Derby, the way it looks at this point, for all intents and purposes, at Golden Gate Fields proper. So enjoy it for the folks who work there, soak it in, and get one last big run. Of course, there'll still be some more races throughout the course of the meet at Golden Gate through, I believe, the end of May and the beginning of June. But this is a big race. It's had a lot of history. Tabasco Cat, some big horses through there over the years. Charismatic, and Ron Bauer in more recent years. Your heart breaks for the people who have worked there, and many, I'm sure, employees who have been there for decades. So this is the last run for them. So we want to salute the folks at Golden Gate who put on the show every day there, and wish them a very happy El Camino Real Derby on Saturday. Okay, we'll be back on Tuesday to wrap up not only the El Camino Real Derby, but the Sam F. Davis and all the news that goes on in horse racing on our podcast. It's official every Tuesday. Be sure to check that out. On behalf of my partner, Jeff Siegel, and everybody across First Technologies, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great Super Bowl weekend. Enjoy the game.